A Chinese politician from an outlying province attempted to impress Confucius with an anecdote of local virtue. The politician explained that the people of his region were so morally virtuous that if a father steals his sheep, the son will give evidence against him. While the politician was basking in the righteousness of his story, Confucius replied, "Our people's virtue is not like that. The father shields the son shields the father. There is virtue in this." No more is said about this exchange in Confucius' famous Analects, and no unified interpretation can be found in 2 millennia of Confucian philosophy. But, of course, most of us know exactly what he meant. We know it in our bones, even if we can't articulate it in language. It is difficult to express an idea of moral privilege when almost all of our ethical education has been against it. From children's stories to religious parables to technical philosophies, we are encouraged to eliminate our personal connections from considerations of justice and virtue. The idea of fairness that many of us are raised on requires us to assign all parties equal weight. Lady Justice herself would often be represented as blindfolded when she balances her scales. She cannot factor in people's money, status, family connections, power, and she cannot play favorites. But how can I act with Lady Justice's neutrality, and why should I? Many of us would side with Confucius rather than the impartial politician. Many of us will always favor our favorites. Loyalty may wreck the ethics of equality for all, but then equality be damned. There is underappreciated virtue here too. In his autobiography, Gandhi suggested that saintliness required forfeiting the usual bounds of family and friendship. The seeker of goodness, Gandhi recommended, must have no close friendships or exclusive loves because these will introduce loyalty, partiality, bias, and favoritism. In order to love everyone, we must not preferentially love any individual or group. A lot of contemporary do-gooders also drink this Kool-Aid. But while it sounds pious for sure, it's neither attractive nor accurate. It's hard to imagine someone more fair-minded and self-sacrificing than Jesus. He was such an equal opportunity humanitarian that he regularly went to eat and spend time with the outcasts, the prostitutes, the tax collectors, and the pariahs. He liked just about everybody and encouraged us to do the same. He took his goodwill one step further, of course, and recommended that we should even love our enemies. This indiscriminate love is arguably the central teaching in Christianity. And yet, even Jesus, the paragon of equal treatment, had a favorite disciple. We don't know for sure which disciple it was. Most think it was John, but we're told in the Gospels that he had a favorite one, and that he even had a 3-man inner circle. He had a posse inside his posse. Another holy man that earns our respect for his selfless charity and his leveling egalitarian approach is the Buddha. He pushed the bounds of fairness through all the caste system boundaries of Indian society and arrived at a totally impartial social and even metaphysical philosophy. Not only could women and untouchables attain enlightenment, a scandalous idea at the time, but every animal species was put on equal status too. And yet, despite all this philosophical impartiality, the Buddha had a best friend. His friend Ananda, who had no equal among Buddha's associates. The enlightened one had a right-hand man. Why do even these major saints of universal love and impartiality still have favorites? Why do they discriminate at all, if everybody is equally valuable? The answer, I will argue in this book, is that they can't do otherwise. It is human to prefer. Love is discriminatory. Like Confucius, George Orwell found impartial ethics incoherent. Indiscriminate love seemed repugnant to Orwell, who believed that love means nothing if it does not mean loving some people more than others. In this book, Against Fairness, I will side definitively with Orwell and argue that loyalty trumps fairness and maybe even justice. We must be willing to sin for the sake of loyalty and favoritism. As authentic human beings, we must be prepared in the end to be defeated and broken up by life, which is the inevitable price of fastening one's love upon other human individuals. Against Fairness.